Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Twin Peaks, episode 4 of season 3. Looks like they doubled up on episodes for the first 2 weekends, so it looks like it's a single episode release from here on out. So June 4th is going to be episode 5, and it looks like it's going to be running into September. So, yeah, good steady dose of Twin Peaks for the summer into the start creeping up on fall. So, good deal. All right, let's get right to it. We get some more Dougie Jones, aka Cooper as Dougie Jones. More of the casino stuff. Not much really to say there. He gets a ride home after he gets his winnings and dropped off at his home. And we see that his wife, who is played by Naomi Watts, who is actually the lead actress in Mulholland Drive, so she's been in David Lynch's works before, is playing Janie Jones, or Janie E. Jones. And apparently she's not too pleased with him. He must be kind of out wandering about and neglecting his responsibilities at home. But the fact that she unwraps the gift that he unknowingly brought to her, and in the guise of a whole lot of greenbacks, she seems to have forgiven him, since apparently those guys that were going to take him out must have been owed some money, so maybe he was and she was kind of upset that the fact that he'd been gambling, it looks like, so maybe he was a gambling addict. Obviously he was hanging around with prostitutes that knew him on a rather intimate basis, literally and figuratively. And also notice that the prostitute's name was Jade, and if you do recall back on Invitation to Love, the soap opera that was running alongside the show itself, as kind of a nod to the fact that Twin Peaks was kind of in a way based, or at least inspired by, in a little bit, soap opera, popular culture. There's a twin women in the show. One, his name is Emerald. One, his name is Jade. So we've got doppelgangers in there, and then this gal's name is Jade. So it was probably might have just been a little nod to that, but a little trivia for you. So yeah, he comes back, and apparently now, Cooper's now Dougie Jones, even though he looks a lot different, dresses different. He's now assuming the role of this person for the foreseeable future, and I hope. I know it's kind of difficult to say whether I really want this to go on for very much longer or not, but the only real alternative is Dale Cooper regains his consciousness, or regains his knowledge of who he is, and then immediately that kind of will draw things to a head, I assume, because as long as he has no clue, I mean, he's not going to be able to contact his friends, contact Gordon. Hey, it's Dale, I'm back 25 years later, and yeah, the other Dale is not me, and so on and so forth. So that's the problem that arises if Cooper gets his memories back. So I will put my faith and trust in Mr. Lynch that he knows what he's doing with this character, but I don't hope he doesn't drag this out for too much longer. It's funny, but like I said, this is 25 years plus in the making. Only so many episodes are available for us to create new content for us to consume. So yeah, that's my misgivings, and but we'll have to wait and see. Over in Twin Peaks Sheriff's Department, Lucy's on the phone with the sheriff, who actually we find out isn't Harry. It's, I guess, the brother, and because I looked at the actor when he walked into the sheriff's station, I'm like, that doesn't look like Michael Ontkean at all. So I was like, man, he really aged weird. And apparently Lucy doesn't understand the concept of a cell phone. She is still the ditz that she always was, but it's funny. She's always been that kind of goofy way. After seeing this character in the position of the sheriff, and then mentioning something about later on we mentioned that something, about him, character not being well or whatever. I looked at the cast list, and I didn't see Michael Ontkean as a cast member that was brought back. But apparently, he's according to his bio, he's alive. He's 71 years young. But I didn't see him listed as reprising the role as Harry S. Truman, so I'm not sure why that is. If you know, like I said, I didn't want to go investigate something that's kind of that minor detail, even though I always liked that character. I like the actor. I think he did a great job. So definitely kind of would have been nice to see him again. But anyway, so yeah, Lucy is not up on modern technology. We get to see a little look through of what the sheriff's department looks like now, a little more modernized. We've got some additional staff on file, or not on file, on the cases and working for the sheriff, and some new technology in there, but otherwise it's still kind of the same vibe, the same MO. And apparently young Bobby Briggs, who's not so young now, I think the actor's name is Dana Ashbrook, I think is the character that plays Bobby Briggs. I guess he ran out of ways to make a buck with old Benjamin Horne, and now he decided, I guess, to become a member of the sheriff's department, which is kind of interesting. I didn't expect him to be part of that crew, but who knows? We'll see where that leads us. So now we've got Hawk and the sheriff, his brother, are looking around at all the evidence. They're trying to figure out what's going on, what Margaret meant by something was missing. And I'm assuming that Sheriff Truman filled in his brother on some of the goings-on. Given they're both lawmen and they're brothers, I would assume that his brother is been informed. Frank Truman is his name. Was informed about all the stuff that went on way back when in Twin Peaks, so he's been up to date, probably, and especially since they kept records and whatnot. So maybe this will be alluded to a little bit more as we go on. So apparently Andy and we've got a new deputy or something is a bit sarcastic, and he does kind of bust some balls as far as the log lady thing, which is fair. Because anybody that watches the show and sees the log lady, unless you're like, half the people are probably like, what planet did I land on? And some of us, like yours truly, just kind of like just go with it. I'm like, I didn't really, it didn't throw me, out of the, I guess not the mood or the mindset that the show was putting me in when I was watching it. I said, oh, okay, there's this lady that, her log is a kind of a conduit for supernatural, messages being relayed from, the spirits in the woods or something like that. So that was kind of funny, though. The guy's kind of given a more of a real world response to the lady that talks to her log, and most people say, she's just nuts. So that was kind of funny. And when Bobby comes in and we see he looks at the picture of Laura Palmer and starts breaking down. Am I the only one that thought that was like unintentionally comedic? When he sees her prom or homecoming queen, whatever photo, and starts breaking down. And he says, oh, that brings back memories. I'm like, that was kind of an awkward scene, to say the least. And I wanted to just tackle that scene first before we kind of go backwards, because with to Gordon at at one of the FBI headquarters, just because I'm a little bit less to go with Gordon. Okay, so Gordon basically visits that to and lo and behold, who's the head honcho there? It's Dennis Bryson. So not surprising. David Duchovny reprising his role. I'm not sure if that was just a one-off. Maybe they'll be there before. And apparently Gordon wants to take this new female agent out in the field, but he's a bit of a rascal, as we know. Tends to like the old lady, or not the old lady, the younger ladies a little bit, maybe too much. But you remember Shelley Johnson, he kind of came in there and, and weaseled his way in and got the hots for her. So maybe he's built himself a bit of a reputation. So we get to see a recurring or a previous character reprising a role. So that was cool. I figured that would. I didn't expect that to be Denise or Dennis or whatever coming out in that scene, but it made plenty of sense. So a little bit of catching up with that character. Yeah. So let's jump back ahead here to Twin Peaks Sheriff Station where we were previously at. And even weirder, we get a visit from Andy and Lucy's son, Wally Brando, who, I guess he thinks he is Marlon Brando in the flesh, or I don't know, reincarnated. So yeah, and if you have any idea why he's dressed that way, if you know anything about cinema, yeah, he's kind of supposed to be like Marlon Brando out of The Wild One, which is a motorcycle gang film with Brando. It's like the rival motorcycle gangs kind of going at it in this old movie. It's like early 50s. So basically he's kind of taken on this persona of Wally Brando, which is kind of funny. It's one of those weird, uncomfortable, drawn out, awkward dialogue scenes that you'll see in Twin Peaks, the original runs, and also in David Lynch films, where you're sitting there like waiting for something. I was waiting for, basically Wally, he came back to pay respects to Harry, who I guess is supposed to be ill and everything, but I thought he was like, there was another ulterior motive, like he was getting, like, the sheriff was waiting for him to kind of come out and say, like, he came to pay a speeding ticket, or something like that, where the whole philosophical I'm in the persona of of Marlon Brando, in the character of Johnny Strabler from The Wild One, is just kind of a just a kind of a goofy thing. So that was what I was expecting, but yeah, it was. I mean, it did drag on a little bit, but that's if that stuff kind of annoys you, then you're probably new to the world of David Lynch, because if you watch the original run of the show, that kind of dialogue, that kind of just awkward silence, kind of in the expression that the sheriff had when he kind of turned and walked around, it was kind of like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever, see you later, pal. But I thought that was pretty funny. And he's supposed, I wonder if he and James Hurley ever swapped stories of the road, since James was kind of like almost like a James Dean kind of character in a little bit of the way when he was in the season 1 and 2 in the movie, when he was in high school. So it was kind of like and I think it's the actor, is it Michael Cera or whatever, does a pretty good job of playing that role. So that was interesting. It's kind of funny, little awkward comedic moment, and his parents are so proud of him. It's too funny. But yeah, anyway, we get past the old Wally Brando philosophical wordage, and get back to Dougie Jones, or Agent Cooper as Dougie Jones. Yeah, and he sees he's, I guess, getting dressed or getting up out of bed, sees the imagery of the Black Lodge floor pattern, and the curtains on the carpet, and Mike appears, or at least we can see him somewhat, and he mentions something about being tricked, or that Dale was tricked, and that one of the two has to die, or something like that. So this opens up some more potential questions as far as the creation of the Dougie Jones doppelganger, because we see the remnant of that Dougie Jones entity or whatever that was brought to the Black Lodge. That kind of that golden ball bearing, which is I'm not sure what it represents, but Mike basically tells Dale that the one of them must die. So I'm assuming it's him or doppelganger that's been inhabited by Bob. Now they're both in the real world. Maybe that means that now they're both physically vulnerable. So maybe the creation of the doppelganger, the Dougie character, was intended, like you said, Mike says, you were tricked. So maybe that was an means by which Bob could get Cooper out of the lodge into the third dimension, if you want to call it, into the waking world, and make him vulnerable. Which is strange too, because if that's the case, the two women that were in that metal kind of building, where Cooper left through that that big outlet and ended up in Dougie's or in that house that Dougie and the prostitute were at. If they were they trying to help him, or were they trying to work along with Bob to get him out there? So it's you start to wonder who exactly can you trust. Mike obviously didn't warn about it anyway. Maybe he couldn't. Maybe he was unaware of it. Because, like I said, remember when Cooper started falling into space, or when the doppelganger of the evolved arm, basically, kind of like cast him out of at least the lodge proper, and he started, plummeting through space, and he ended up in this new area inside that building. And now all of a sudden, he's encouraged by, this character that I actually looked up the credits, and it's not supposed to be Ronette Pulaski. It's just, she's reprising she's not reprising her original role. She's actually playing a separate character. So that's not supposed to be Ronette Pulaski, just to give you a heads up if you're confused. That, tells him that he needs to hurry because the mother's coming back. So he goes out, and now he's out in the real world. So yeah, I don't know if if they worked in part to trick him, but I guess, brainstorming here would be is that perhaps, now that, Cooper's out in the world as Dougie, or at least he's Agent Cooper, but everyone thinks he's Dougie. And Bob is in the evil Dale or whatever, body. If Bob manages to kill Cooper in the real world, and kills him outright because Mike says one of them has to die, maybe that allows Bob to stay out in the world permanently, and like it's almost like he does completely become Cooper, and he isn't simply an inhabiting spirit, or something along those lines, so that he doesn't have to go back to the Black Lodge. Something like that, because I'm assuming that's one of them has to die now, because initially we were told, or at least alluded to in the first couple episodes, was that they had to bring Bob back in, so that Dale could escape completely and out into the world. But apparently now that is kind of that's kind of a no-go, because Dale's not in the lodge anymore. As far as we can tell, he's now out in the real world, though he does not know who he is or really much of anything. He's kind of like a child learning how to do things again. So yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, more questions. Was this area that Dale fell into in that metal building, was that a device set up by that the arm's doppelganger, kind of the evil arm or whatever? And so yeah, like I said, a lot of surrealist, kind of dreamlike, supernatural elements going on that are always present in a lot of Lynch films that a lot of times go unexplained, but we'll see. Like I said, we're only this is episode number 4, and I think there's a total of 18, so we'll just have to be patient. Like I said, I hope there's a big payoff. So yeah, we've got Dougie, and I'm assuming that's his kid there at the table. And his kid was laughing. The way his kid was laughing reminded me of I think it was Heidi, the German waitress for the Double R that comes in at the episode 1 of season 1 and then comes back in at the very end of season 2, doing that kind of like almost like that cartoon chipmunk like goofy laughter. It's almost what that kid sounded like. I don't know if that was intentional or not. So yeah, more Dougie Jones, and then we get to the South Dakota, or the sheriff's department or whatever in South Dakota, where Gordon and Agent Preston and Albert are headed to speak to who they think is Cooper, but it has a military authorization required to access it. And we do know that Major Briggs was military, and we also learn going back that Major Briggs is now deceased. Apparently, Dale visited him before he died, which I mean, at least that's what Bobby relays to us. And so that was either Bob inhabiting Dale, visiting him, that maybe he caused this death, or the spirit, Dale was able to act or communicate with him through dreams or something. So we don't learn much more about that. So hopefully we'll learn more about Major Briggs's fate eventually. But like I said, Gordon and crew come to the sheriff's department in South Dakota, and we see that that person who says he is Cooper has been up to no good. He's got a severed dog's foot. He's got cocaine. He's got a machine gun and stuff found in his vehicle. So yeah, what's he been up to? And so we get the three of them in the interrogation room or whatever. They open up the window, and we see what appears, at least to them, to be Cooper, but we know who that really is. And notice that his voice sounds very odd compared to when he was talking normally. So I think that was done on purpose as well. And Albert, I think right from the beginning, has a sinking suspicion that something's not right here. And the way that Cooper, or at least who they think is Cooper, is acting is very, odd compared to what he normally would. So, yeah, definitely is giving off some bad vibes there. And also, Cooper is trying to claim that he and Philip Jeffries are working in cahoots, who is another agent that went missing, that we saw in Firewalk with Me, who was investigating things that had to do with the entities of the Black Lodge, and disappeared. So he's trying to create some kind of an alibi to convince the agents that he is who he is, but I don't think it's going to work. Albert and Gordon have a bit of a heart-to-heart talking about their recent interview with Cooper, and they're going to have to go and find someone who they think will be able to help out. And saying it's a woman, I hope that it is Sarah Palmer. That would be my hope, that she's finally brought into the fold, because I hope personally that her presence in the show becomes greater, and sooner rather than later, because she's got a lot coming to her as far as getting revenge on Bob, or defeating Bob once and for all. Since out of everybody, in that Twin Peaks world, she's been affected the most, other than maybe Cooper. So I hope that's who they're going to find in the next episode. So that's episode 4. So overall good. The Dougie Jones stuff, I'm take it or leave it. It's kind of what it is at this point. It's too early to say. Once I watch every episode and go back, maybe, it won't be as big a deal. But, it is kind of like, oh, great, here, more of this. Yes, we get it. Dougie Jones, a.k.a. Cooper, is, out of place, doesn't know where he's at, etc. So, but at least there was the image of Mike showing up to let Agent Cooper know that something is up. That something bad is going to happen to him or his doppelganger. And that's kind of how it has to be. Everything has to be resolved that way. So yeah, I hope next episode we're more focused on the case. Get to maybe see Sarah Palmer recruited in to help out. That would be cool. But other than that, yeah, we'll just have to wait. Let's see. Next episode is coming on Sunday, June 4th. So everybody, I'll see you then. Take it easy.